What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Big Chunky. So today I really wanted to talk about there being the prospect of a couple more unannounced, probably Mario games still in the works for Nintendo, because of course we had the Paper Mario: The Origami King announcement just a few days ago, and that set the internet on fire just for a little bit, because Paper Mario does have a pretty dedicated following, and it's best not to mess with the fan base over there, because there are a couple games that everybody pretty much loves, and there are a few games that pretty much everybody hates, from what it seems like. So it's interesting to see what that game is going to actually come out to be, and maybe it's loved, maybe it's hated, maybe it's finally a game where everybody can agree, this is alright. But maybe that's not the only thing that Nintendo has in store. Now, I think it's entirely impossible for Nintendo to only have Paper Mario lined up for this year, and that's the only announcement that we haven't heard yet. So, a few weeks ago, there were a couple leaks that said that, first of all, a Paper Mario game was going to be announced in 2020. It already happened, so that's a plus one for that kind of leak. But there was also the prospect of there being more redos, remasters of older games. For example, Super Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy were all listed. So people immediately took that to be, they're coming out this year. This is the 35th anniversary of Mario being a thing, so it's Mario's 35th birthday, which I'm assuming is very, very important to Nintendo. Mario is their strongest IP. It's like the strongest IP in video games right now. So you'd think that they would want to do something pretty spectacular for it and bring some of these older games that aren't on the current platform, the Nintendo Switch, on there, and make sure that they are in the best quality and the best playable state that they can be in. So Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy are all from 3 succeeding generations, and they would all make really, really good candidates for Mario games to bring up to the current platform. So Super Mario 64, I think, is probably the easiest one to grasp, because it has the most basic controls, because you just use a controller and an analog stick. We're going to have maybe a couple problems with Super Mario Sunshine, because the Switch does not have the analog triggers that the GameCube controller had. So they're going to have to try to find a workaround concerning the analog controllers, concerning the analog shoulder buttons, and make them hopefully work with the Pro Controller and the Joy-Cons. But of course, I would hope that they would allow another control scheme, because they do have that the GameCube adapter that you can plug into your Switch dock, and that'll allow you to use a GameCube controller. So hopefully they retain that control scheme, just for people that want to enjoy the game in its purest form, just HDified, which is, I'm excited for that. I know that Super Mario Sunshine is a little bit more of a divisive game than 64 and even Galaxy. But let's move on to Galaxy and talk about the prospects of that being a real thing, and that's, yeah, absolutely. So the Galaxy used the nunchuck and Wii remote back when it came out on the Wii, and really all you have to do now is use 2 Joy-Cons. One for all the controls in your left hand, use the analog stick, and the right hand for pointing and shaking. And that'll allow for all of the controls to be perfectly executed on the Switch from the Wii. Same thing, you could probably say the same thing about Skyward Sword, because in talk about that being moved over, but I'll save that for later in a different video. But of course, these games can be moved over relatively easily. All they need to do is have a nice spit shine, a good coat of paint, and revise the controls a little bit, and everything should be well and good with these games specifically. None of them are technically super hard to run on anything, especially Mario 64. It's just a 64 game, and Dolphin is a GameCube and Wii emulator that can emulate those kind of games on a relatively low-powered PC. So I don't have any doubt that the Switch will have any trouble running these games. It's just a matter of, is Nintendo actually going to do it? And I think they probably are. So the leak got Paper Mario correct, and now I don't think that that was an impossible thing to guess, because it has been several years since a Paper Mario game was announced, released, and it came out to kind of middling reception. And I think that Nintendo likes to redeem themselves a lot of the time when it comes to games that they just do kind of mediocre on. Um, you could say the same thing about like a Skyward Sword moving on to a Breath of the Wild, because people were iffy about the controls and the game was pretty blurry because it was on the Wii. It was limited by the Wii's hardware. But then they move on and make Breath of the Wild, and that's the biggest Zelda game, the most open Zelda game, the polar opposite of Skyward Sword. So maybe, you never know. Maybe they're redeeming themselves, and maybe the game is going to be excellent. We don't know yet. But what we can assume from the future potential of there being remasters of Mario games is that they will be entirely playable and very good, because we've already played those games before. So hopefully it's just like a spit shine and we can move those games to the Switch, and it'll be that clean and that clear cut, and hopefully they package them all together as one thing. I'm sure everybody would go and happily pay $60 to have those three very substantial Mario games on the Switch on a cartridge. I think everybody would pay for that. I would pay for that. So hopefully that actually happens. That's really all I wanted to talk about, is hopefully these Mario games are actually going to be released. I don't really have any doubt that they're doing it. It was kind of very unfortunate that a couple years ago, Nintendo wasn't really doing anything for the 30th anniversary of Zelda. But I think that Mario is a much stronger IP for them anyway. So I think that they probably should and are working on something that is substantial for the 35th anniversary of Mario. But I would like to know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Are they remastering these games? Are we going to be seeing them on the Switch in the near future? I'd really like to know what you think, so leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you think, and leave the video a like if you liked it and dislike it if you didn't, and I'll see you in the next one.